All right, so today we're diving into a mystery that has fascinated people for, I don't know how long, centuries, I guess. The Mary Celeste.
The Mary Celeste, yeah.
You've probably heard about it,
Yeah.
a ghost ship found just drifting at sea.
Right.
And, tons of ships have met, bad ends in the ocean.
Sure.
But the Mary Celeste wasn't sunk. It wasn't attacked by pirates. It wasn't wrecked in a storm or anything.
Nope.
They found it in perfect condition.
Yeah, it's the lack of a cause. That's what's always fascinated people.
Right. It's like walking onto a movie set and everybody just disappeared.
Yeah, just poof.
Yeah. So December 4th, 1872, the Atlantic Ocean near the Azores. That's where they found her. She was a brigantine.
A two-masted sailing ship.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she was on a pretty routine voyage from New York to Genoa, Italy.
Mm-hmm.
And her cargo was over 1,700 barrels of industrial alcohol.
Not exactly pirate booty.
No, not really.
Right.
Yeah.
And we have to remember, this wasn't just a cargo ship. This was a family. Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife Sarah, their 2-year-old daughter, Sophia. Oh, wow.
And a crew of 7, all on board. And I think that human element is what really gets to people. What was it like for them, sailing across the ocean, having, dreams and hopes and nothing?
Right.
Silence.
The last entry in the ship's log was on November 25th. And at that point, they were about 400 miles east of the Azores. And the logbook entries were all totally normal, nothing unusual at all. But then 9 days later, things get weird.
Another ship, a merchant ship called the De Gracia, they spotted the Mary Celeste, just drifting 600 miles off course. And can you imagine being on that crew, boarding this, seemingly abandoned vessel?
Yeah.
What are you expecting to find?
Yeah, some sign of a struggle, right?
Right, distress signal, something. But that's not what they found at all.
Yeah, so what did they find?
It was like time had stopped. The ship was in pretty good shape. The sails were partially set. Some of the navigational instruments were missing, but everything else was untouched. Food, water, personal belongings, even the captain's sword.
Really?
In his cabin. But the lifeboat was gone. So think about that. Why would a captain like Briggs, especially with his family, abandon a ship that's in good condition?
Yeah, and it wasn't like they just ran. They provisioned the lifeboat.
Oh, so they planned it.
Yeah. So what on earth drove them to leave behind everything they knew and just vanish?
Yeah, so that leads to the obvious question, what happened? And of course, there are a lot of theories. I think the most common one is mutiny. The crew turned on the captain, took the lifeboat, and left.
Sure. But if that's what happened, you'd think there'd be some sign of a struggle.
Right.
Weapons, bloodstains, damage to the ship, but there was nothing. So that makes the mutiny theory seem pretty unlikely.
Then there's the other big theory, pirates.
Right. Classic pirate story.
But would pirates really leave 1,700 barrels of alcohol?
Yeah, it doesn't really sound like them, does it?
No.
But there is one little detail that might be important. They found 9 of the alcohol barrels empty.
Empty? Okay, so another theory is that fumes from the alcohol built up.
Right. And Captain Briggs might have thought the ship was about to explode, so he ordered everyone into the lifeboat.
That makes sense, especially because, this was the 19th century. Safety standards weren't what they are today.
No. But there's one huge problem with that theory. Despite the possibility of an explosion, they didn't find any fire damage on the ship.
Oh.
Yeah. So that pretty much rules out the alcohol fumes.
So we've got mutiny, pirates, exploding alcohol. None of those really seem to explain what happened. It's like we have all these pieces of puzzle, but none of them fit together.
Right.
And just when you think it can't get any weirder.
We kind of have to go into the realm of speculation here, where the facts and the, fiction, they kind of blur together.
Right.
Because the Mary Celeste has become like this blank canvas for our imaginations, and it's inspired so many theories that go way beyond any kind of conventional explanation.
I love this part. It's like we're in a Maritime X-Files episode.
Right.
So what are some of the wilder theories out there?
Well, we've got everything. Like the Bermuda Triangle, even though the Mary Celeste was found way north of where the triangle is supposed to be.
Right.
There are stories about giant sea monsters that could just pluck an entire crew off a ship without a trace.
Sea monsters?
Yeah.
Really? I mean, that's obviously fantasy, right?
Well, yeah, but we're talking about a mystery that no one's been able to explain for over 100 years, and that's what I think is so fascinating about the Mary Celeste. It makes us think about the limits of what we know.
Yeah.
And maybe there are forces out there that we just don't understand yet.
Okay, so besides sea monsters, what about other more supernatural theories?
Oh, yeah. There's the theory that the Mary Celeste was cursed. that there was some evil force on board that drove the crew crazy or to some other terrible fate.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some evidence to support that. Before it was called the Mary Celeste, the ship had a few different names.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it had this history of bad luck, like collisions, deaths on board, weird incidents. It makes you wonder if there was something more to it than just bad luck.
And, of course, we can't forget about aliens.
Right. Maybe aliens beamed the crew up to their spaceship and just left the Mary Celeste behind as a ghost ship.
Yeah.
It's fun to think about, but like all the other theories, there's no proof. And that's the biggest problem with the Mary Celeste. We just don't know what happened.
Right.
And so we try to fill in the blanks with whatever explanations we can come up with, no matter how crazy they are.
You know, it's amazing how this one case has become such a part of our culture.
It is.
We've got books, documentaries, even fictional stories inspired by the Mary Celeste. It's almost like the mystery itself has become a story.
Yeah, and I think it shows that we have this deep need to make sense of the world around us, to find patterns and explanations even when they don't exist. And because we don't have a definitive answer, the Mary Celeste becomes this mirror reflecting our own anxieties,
Right.
our fear of the unknown and our need for order in a world that can seem so chaotic.
It's like a Rorschach test for the imagination. We see what we want to see,
Exactly.
what our beliefs and biases lead us to believe.
For some people, it's a story about human error.
Yeah.
Or people doing bad things, like a warning about the dangers that are hidden just below the surface of civilization. But for others, it's a way into the paranormal.
Right.
A glimpse into something we can't really understand.
But with all the speculation and all these theories, we can't forget that the Mary Celeste was a real ship
Absolutely.
with a real crew. And their disappearance is a real unsolved mystery.
Yeah. And that brings us back to why we're doing this deep dive. What can we learn from the facts, even though there aren't many?
Right.
Can we use critical thinking to figure out what's plausible and what's totally made up?
So let's talk about the insurance fraud theory. That's the one that investigators really focused on.
Right. It's not as exciting as sea monsters or aliens.
No.
But it's definitely about a darker side of human nature.
So the investigators in Gibraltar, they really thought that Captain Briggs might have abandoned the ship on purpose to collect insurance money.
Yeah, or that the crew of the Dei Gracia staged the whole thing so they could claim the Mary Celeste and her cargo.
But wouldn't something like that take a lot of planning? I mean, they'd have to cover their tracks perfectly to get away with it.
Yeah, it would be a huge risk. And the logistics are really complicated.
Right.
But remember, this was a time when communication was slow, and records weren't as detailed as they are now. And the ocean is vast. There was plenty of opportunity for deception.
It makes you wonder what those people were thinking. Were they greedy or desperate or something else entirely?
Yeah, we'll probably never know for sure.
That's both the amazing thing and the frustrating thing about historical mysteries.
Yeah.
We only have these little fragments of information.
Yeah.
And we're trying to put together a story that might never be complete.
It's like trying to solve a jigsaw puzzle with half the pieces missing.
And yet, we're still drawn to the challenge, to the mystery of it all. So we've talked about all these theories and the details of the voyage, but what happened to the Mary Celeste after they found her? Did she just sail off into the sunset or what?
That's a good question, and most people don't even think to ask it.
Right, I guess you hear ghost ship and you think that's the end of the story.
Right, but the Mary Celeste actually kept sailing for another 13 years.
Really? Wow. I had no idea. So what happened during those 13 years? Did she ever, get rid of her ghost ship reputation?
Well, she was sold a few times. And she had a couple more incidents, like a collision, and then she ran aground. Nothing as dramatic as the ghost ship thing, but still. It's like she couldn't escape her past.
Yeah, it makes you wonder about that curse theory.
Yeah. And then finally, in 1885, she was carrying a cargo of lumber to Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and that's when it all ended.
Wait, so the Mary Celeste survived being a ghost ship and then she gets wrecked. How does that happen?
Well, her captain, a guy named James Winchester, he was accused of intentionally running her aground on a reef near Haiti.
On purpose?
Yeah, apparently he was trying to get insurance money.
Wow. So the Mary Celeste goes from being one of the biggest maritime mysteries to being part of an insurance scam. What a way to go out.
It's kind of fitting, isn't it? A ship surrounded by mystery, ending her days in a scandal. Even in her death, the Mary Celeste left us with more questions than answers.
So after all this, after this deep dive into the Mary Celeste, where do we end up? We've talked about all these explanations. We've looked at some crazy theories. We even followed the ship's journey after that day in 1872. But we still don't know what happened to Captain Briggs and his family and the crew.
Nope. And that's the question that's going to keep echoing through history. The Mary Celeste reminds us that even now, with all our technology and all the information we have, there are some secrets that the ocean just won't give up.
I think what we've learned today is that sometimes the most interesting mysteries are the ones we can't solve. They make us think critically and accept that there are things we don't know. And I think they remind us of the power of a good story.
Yeah. The Mary Celeste might be gone, but the stories we tell about her and the theories we come up with and the questions we ask, they all keep her memory alive.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what will you take away from it? Will you try to find a rational explanation? Will you go and research the history and look at maps?
Yeah.
Or will you just accept the mystery and let the Mary Celeste be this haunting reminder of how big and mysterious the world really is?
It's up to you. But one thing's for sure. The Mary Celeste, like all great mysteries, will continue to fascinate people and make them think and argue about it for years to come.
Yeah.